Good morning, my lovely friends. I hope you are doing well. Welcome to another episode of Animal Alley. I am super excited about this one, friends. So today we are going to read a nature poem. We are going to learn about our new mystery animal, and then I have an activity that you can complete if you choose. So today's poem comes from the book that I often get my poems from. It's called I Am the Seed That Grew the Tree. I love this book. I cannot speak any more highly of it, The link for it's in the description below. You can find it on Amazon, or if you just Google the title, it's a good way to find it too. So today's poem is this one right up here. It's called What Do You Suppose? And it is written by an anonymous author. What do you suppose? A bee sat on my nose. Then what do you think? He gave me a wink and said, I beg your pardon, I thought you were the garden. So using our poem in the context clues, can you guess what our animal of the day is? If you guessed a bee, you are correct. So today the species of bee we are going to be focusing on is the honeybee. So they are a type of animal called an invertebrate, which is something we haven't discussed yet, but we will learn about later on in the video. They are a herbivore, which means they have a plant-based diet. They live up to 5 years in the wild, and they're extremely small, so 0.4 to 0.6 inches. So these are only the worker bees. We'll learn that the queen bees are a lot bigger than that. Okay, so honeybees live in colonies with one queen running the whole hive. Worker honeybees are all female, so the ones that you see buzzing around are mostly females. So they forage for food, they build the honeycombs, and they protect the hive. So honeybees are important pollinators for flowers. So we're going to talk about that word. Pollinators are very important to the environment. These are animals that help spread pollen from one flower to another flower, and in turn that helps more flowers grow. So then by them eating the pollen, it actually gets stuck on their legs. Later I'll have a diagram for you to look at. And when it sticks on their legs, when they fly to other flowers, they leave behind pollen, which in turn, like I said, causes more flowers to grow, which is really important. So honeybees live on stored honey and pollen all winter long, and they cluster into balls to conserve warmth. So all honeybees are very social insects. Members of the hive are divided into 3 types. Workers forage for food, so the pollen and nectar from flowers, like we said. They build and protect the hive. They clean and circulate the air by beating their wings. So I thought that one was really cool. And the queen's job is simple. She lays all the eggs that will eventually hatch and become the next generation of bees. So she's just the mother bee. So they are usually only one queen per hive. And if for some reason, if the queen dies, the worker bees will create a new queen. So they'll elect a new queen by feeding one of the female worker bees a food called royal jelly, which will actually help the bee grow to be the size of the queen bee, and then she'll take over. This is just a map that I got from National Geographic Kids website. I highly recommend that resource. As you guys know, I love it. So everywhere that's yellow is where bees live. So as you can tell, they are super important and are almost on every continent in the world. So we live on the continent North America. Let me see if I can change my highlighter color, excuse me. Do this dark blue. So we live in North America. So this is where the United States would be. And we can tell that all over the U.S., honeybees live everywhere. So they're very important. They're very plentiful too. So let's learn about invertebrates. So we said that honeybees are classified as invertebrates, which means they do not have a backbone. They do not have a spine. A lot of animals have spines. So if you have a cat, dog, guinea pig, hamster, all of those friends have a spine. Animals that are invertebrates do not have a spine. So although they lack an internal skeleton, many of these animals make up for this by developing a shell, such as snails. So a snail is a good example of an invertebrate. They have that very soft body that doesn't have a spine, but they have that shell to help protect them. And then lobsters and a lot of insects also develop what is called an exoskeleton. So that's a big word. But all that basically means is that it's an external skeleton. So think of it as just like armor. So with crabs, for example, they have that really hard shell. So that's their way of protecting themselves, even though inside they don't have a backbone. And then arthropods, which are our friends over here, are a fancy way of saying insects. And a lot of our insect friends, have an exoskeleton to help protect them. Other examples of this would be mollusks, like snails, octopi, clams. We have worms, we have sea sponges, jellyfish is a good example, and starfish. So this is the picture I was referring to earlier. So I thought it would be really cool to look at a diagram of a bee, and the pollen basket is really what I wanted to focus on. This little guy here, has a really important job. So all of the pollen that they collect really builds up in these pollen baskets. So when they head back to the hive, think of it just as a grocery food bag. So they have tons of stuff in their grocery bag, and then when they go back to the hive, they're able to unpack their groceries and help develop and make that honey and feed their other worker bees and the queen. The abdomen and thorax are harder. They're like a shell almost, and that's what we refer to as their exoskeleton. We've learned about this term before, but just to refresh, this is called a proboscis, and it is like butterflies have this. It's like a long tube, like a bendy straw that insects use to draw nectar out of plants. So just think of it as like a really curly straw, like a curly straw for them to eat nectar and then carry nectar with them back to the hive. So we're going to do a quick web quest. I'm going to get my laser pointer back. I wonder if, let's see, 1 second. Hello again. Sorry about the technical difficulties. So now you're going to go on a web quest. This is a really cool article that I found on National Geographic Kids, and I feel like when you find these really good educational sources, it's kind of fun to navigate the information in a way that you find really cool facts. And I think it's fact number 10 is my favorite, so I'm excited to share some of these with you. So bees are very important to the environment, but they also they make honey, which I love. I love honey, so I think they're more than just pollinators. They make delicious food too. So here are just some pictures of bees that I think are really cute. And so here's some facts about honeybees. So they are super important pollinators. There's that big word for us again. And they, here we go. They are super important pollinators for flowers, fruits, and vegetables. So this means they help other plants grow. Bees transfer pollen between different plants, and this helps plants grow seeds and fruit. So they're very awesome for the environment, helping plants grow. The average worker bee only lives 5 to 6 weeks. And during this time, she'll produce about 1/12 of a teaspoon of honey. So it takes a lot of bees and a lot of work to even get a little bit of honey. The queen can live up to 5 years. She is the busiest in the summer months, where she can lay up to 2,500 eggs, which will eventually hatch and be baby bees. So yeah, very cool. And honeybees are brilliant dancers. To share information about the best food sources, they perform their wiggle dance. When the workers return to the hive, it moves a figure of 8 waggle its body to indicate the direction of the food source. So it likes to dance, which I thought was really funny. Okay, so back to the presentation now. Okay, so this is a closer look at what the hive looks like. We have these identical cells that look like a shape that we've actually studied in class. So as a refresher, this little bee down here, he said, what shape has 6 sides? So my friends, we learned about a shape that has 6 sides. So let's think about it for a little bit. It is a polygon. So a polygon is a type of shape, but more specifically, it is called a hexagon. Hexagons have 6 sides. Okay, my friends, that brings us to the end of our presentation. Today, for your optional activity, with your parents' permission, there is a link to the Wild Kratts episode called The Toughest Bee, where you will learn a lot about bees. So you already started learning about them. If you want to continue the learning, I highly recommend this video. It's super cute. If you don't want to watch the Wild Kratts, I recommend you go to National Geographic Kids website with your parents' permission, and you can learn more about bees, other insects, and I think that we'll be doing more episodes on invertebrates because I feel like they are super cool and they're not really talked about that much. So I'm excited to continue making these videos, and I miss you all so much. I hope you're doing well, and I hope you have a fun and safe day. Happy learning. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have. Okay, happy learning, friends.